President Nicolas Maduro reiterated his condemnation of the human rights violations against Venezuelan migrants promoted by the far right. The White House confirmed the immediate imposition of unilateral tariffs, a protectionist measure that will affect prices for the U.S. working class. An Israeli occupation troop threatened to expand operations in Gaza amid a corruption scandal involving the Israeli Prime Minister and close collaborators. Hello, welcome from the South. I'm Luis Alberto Matos from the teleSUR studios in Caracas, Venezuela. We begin with the news. Stay with us. The government of Venezuela remains firm in its commitment to the Venezuelan people to guarantee the safe and dignified return of migrants kidnapped by the United States through the plan for their return to their homeland. Let's see data about the development of the return to the homeland plan.
On February the 10th, the first two flights from the United States arrived in Venezuela as part of the Return to the Homeland plan, returning 190 nationals to the country. Then, from Mexico, a plane arrived to Venezuelan soil on February 24th with 242 migrants on board. A second flight from Mexico arrived in Venezuela on March 20, with 311 Venezuelan migrants who returned to the country. Likewise, the Plan Vuelta a la Patria repatriated another 311 Venezuelan migrants from Honduras on March 23rd, and a second aircraft from Honduras arrived to Venezuelan territory one day later on March 24th, 2025, with 199 Venezuelan migrants on board. In turn, Venezuela received another 175 Venezuelan nationals from the United States in a plane that landed on March 30th. All the flights that have arrived in the country so far total more than 1,400 Venezuelan nationals repatriated as part of the government plan Vuelta a la Patria, promoted by President Nicolas Maduro to guarantee dignified return of all Venezuelan migrants to their country.
Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro reiterated his condemnation of the human rights violations against Venezuelan migrants promoted by the far right and the governments of the United States and El Salvador. The Venezuelan president asserted that the far right is responsible for the wave of migration experienced by the country as a result of the economic sanctions requested by Maria Corina Machado and Juan Guaidó in an attempt to destabilize the Venezuelan government. In this sense, he detailed that all the coercive measures implemented by the U.S. government against the nation only seek to undermine sovereignty and peace. He also highlighted that the transfer of migrants to El Salvador represents a serious violation of international laws. Moreover, the president applauded the federal decision blocking Trump's law to revoke more than 170,000 temporary protected status to nationals residing in the U.S.
Get out of the way, traitors to the homeland, those who have come out to support the violation of the human rights of the Venezuelan migrants, the kidnapping, the forced disappearance. Get out of the way, Sayona, Maria Machado. She is the one who planned all this. She came up with this to humiliate the people of Venezuela, as revenge, because she could not and will not be able to win. The relatives know it and all the migrants should know it. All this was proposed by Maria Machado to her godfather, Marco Rubio, the godfather of Maria Machado. All this was proposed and coordinated with the administration of the United States for aggression.
In other news, the White House confirmed the immediate imposition of unilateral tariffs, a protectionist measure that will affect prices for the U.S. working class. U.S. President Donald Trump justifies this policy with a nationalist discourse while ignoring the global consequences of his trade war. Under the euphemism of Liberation Day, the United States government imposes reciprocal tariffs without considering their effect on dependent economies. This policy reflects Washington's hegemonic approach, which prioritizes coercion over multilateral dialogue. This unilateral measure, which will drive up prices, was defended by presidential spokeswoman Caroline Leavitt with a "it will work." And during her morning press conference, Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum addressed the tariffs on foreign countries to be applied by U.S. President Trump, announcing the unveiling on Thursday of a comprehensive plan to strengthen the Mexican economy, particularly its automotive industry.
¿Cuál es el anuncio que da?
Let's see what announcement he makes.
De fortalecimiento de la economía.
We have a plan to strengthen the economy in any circumstance.
Es el Plan México. Y ahora
It is the Mexico plan, and now we are going to strengthen it even more.
no somos.
So we are not negative about it.
Mañana vamos a anunciar.
Tomorrow we are going to announce it. It is a comprehensive program. It is not a matter of retaliation, of saying if you put tariffs on me, I will put tariffs on you. Our interest is to strengthen the Mexican economy, including the automotive industry.
Entre otras de la industria automotriz.
And Brazil approves a new strategy to counter United States tariff threats in the face of the tariff threat from the United States. The Economic Affairs Committee of the Brazilian Senate gave the go-ahead to a strategy that makes it possible to take measures against those countries that try to impose trade walls. According to teleSUR's Brazilian reporter Ignacio Lemos, these proposals also allows the South American giant to react to unilateral foreign decisions as violation and damage of trade agreements. The measures to impose tariffs will take effect as of April 2nd, so the Brazilian Commission approved the project on a preventive basis. Let's continue with our news. On Wednesday, Barbados Ambassador to CARICOM, David Commission, addressed during an interview the recent visit of U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio to the Caribbean, highlighting the bloc's strong response to Washington's policies targeting the Cuban medical missions.
We stood unified. We had one position. We articulated that position, and we explained our reality. Look, this is our truth, this is our reality, this is what the interests of our people demands, and this is where we stand. And, you know, if you proceed the way you said you're going to proceed, well, you know, we don't, but this is where we stand. And that has obviously had an impression. And so I think that is a great takeaway for me. And I think an important part of it, Pearson, is that the Caribbean people were obviously behind the positions that our leaders took.
Yes.
Because the Caribbean people know the Cuban Medical Corporation, and they know what benefit it has brought to us.
And in this context, Ambassador Commission touched on the current U.S. foreign policy, which he stated evidences a return to the Monroe Doctrine approach of the 19th century.
We are going to face some challenges with the foreign policy of the Trump administration. We can perhaps discuss that because I think the policy that they're pursuing is a hark back to American foreign policy of the 19th century.
Indeed.
You know, where, the Monroe Doctrine, the system of the American system of political economy. We could discuss that, and that is going to produce some challenges for us.
We now have a first break coming up. Remember to join us on TikTok at teleSUR English for different news in different formats. We'll be right back after this very short break. Welcome back. Ecuador's Defense Minister Giancarlo Lofredo confirmed on Tuesday that the government of President Daniel Noboa will invest resources in U.S. military bases in the territory. Ecuadorians found out in a news broadcast that their government is investing resources in the installation of a Washington base in their country. Maps, plans, and preparations for the arrival of the troops in Ecuador were revealed. It was then that the Minister of Defense, under investigation for the disappearance and later execution of 4 miners in Guayaquil, finally acknowledged the facts. He also announced the arrival of a mission of a private foreign mercenary company.
That's right. We have deals in force that comprise different sectors. Infrastructures, for instance, we sealed a very important agreement with the United States, by means of which we are making investments on both sides, so as part of it we count up with several facilities, not only the ones reported by the CNN.
And the former president of Costa Rica and Nobel Peace Prize winner, Oscar Arias, confirmed that the United States has revoked his diplomatic passport. In his social media, Arias criticized Donald Trump's government, especially for the way it has dealt with the war between Russia and Ukraine. Arias said he had no plans to travel to the U.S. anytime soon. The former president also commented that he has no trip planned to the United States and reiterated the criticism he has historically made to that country for its military investments.
Without freedom of ideas and thoughts, there cannot be any wisdom, and there cannot be any public freedom without freedom of speech. These are phrases said by true Democrats. What they mean by these phrases is that the adversary who thinks differently from the government in office cannot be seen as a sin, but it ought to be seen rather as a blessing. And many of you will remember that I have gone through life building bridges to unite and see eye to eye, and not to build walls to divide. Now, I do not know the reason why they have revoked my visa, but I accept the decision, because the government in Washington has the right to such decision.
And in the United States, Democratic Judge Susan Crawford triumphed over far-right GOP candidate in Wisconsin elections, earning a seat on the Supreme Court. Crawford's victory implied a heavy defeat for U.S. President Donald Trump, his right-hand man Elon Musk, and the MAGA movement. Musk prompted the Department of Government Efficiency lose millions of dollars for having invested in the electoral campaign of Republican Brad Kimmel. In elections, Judge Crawford had highlighted that justice was not for sale in the United States. Therefore, she gained the support of both Democrats and Wisconsin and Midwestern states voters. In this context, far-right sectors ramped up their criticism of Musk as they blame him for putting the Dutch in dire straits. And the U.S. government lays off about 10,000 employees in the health and human services sector, as well as in the areas of Food and Drug Administration, Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, and National Institutes of Health. According to local media, security guards prevented some employees from entering just a few hours after they received the notices, calling the jobs that sustain the country a bloated bureaucracy. The government dismissed high-level scientists who oversee public health, cancer research, and the approval of vaccines and drugs. In light of this, multiple platforms are asking how the United States will deal with health emergencies such as the current measles outbreak and the spread of avian influenza.
In the United States, there are specific programs that are being lost that are going to have a huge impact on specific populations. For example, the cuts to HIV funding. There also are cuts I don't understand, like taking away statisticians who are essential for analyzing the massive amounts of data CDC collects. They may continue to collect some data, but who's going to analyze it? There are administrative and technical staff, IT staff, who are critical to the functioning of the agency, who are going to go away, and your average scientist is not going to be able to fix your IT systems.
We now have our second and final short break coming up. Remember always to visit us on our Facebook page at teleSUR English. There you'll be able to watch our top stories and special live coverage. We'll be right back after the final short break. Welcome back. Amid a corruption scandal involving Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and close collaborators, Israel's genocidal troops threatened to expand the offensive in Gaza. The announcement was made by Zionist Minister Israel Katz on Wednesday after criminal troops under his command killed 17 Palestinians in different parts of the enclave earlier in the day. The massive eviction order does not detail any specific area. He has limited himself to say that security areas will be taken and annexed in case it is an ongoing operation, and not a way to distract attention from the serious corruption scandal of Zionism. It will imply a new massive evacuation of the population. And in Palestine as well, more journalists and media workers have been killed in the besieged Gaza Strip than in the two world wars combined. The killing of another Palestinian journalist in an Israeli bombing in the southern Gaza Strip brought to 232 the number of press professionals killed since October 7, 2023. Gaza journalists bear the brunt of these dangers, as the decline of Western foreign correspondents has led the global media to rely increasingly on local reporters. The Israeli regime's ban on foreign reporters, coupled with the killings of Palestinian reporters, shows that there are far fewer and fewer journalists trained to translate news from the devastated territory. And the Palestinian government rejects the visit of Israeli ministers to the occupied West Bank. Palestinian authorities condemn the tour of Finance Minister Bezalel Smotrich and Defense Minister Israel Katz, who advocate the deepening protection and promotion of Jewish settlements in Palestinian lands. In turn, Israel's Defense Minister Israel Katz warned that they will not allow the Palestinian national authorities, recognized by the international community, to expand the urban areas in strategic areas of the West Bank. The Israeli non-governmental organization for peace denounced that Israel's policy of wanting to intensify its attacks with expansionist plans undermines any possibility of reaching a peaceful solution to the conflict. And the brutal U.S. bombardments against the Yemeni civilian population with the support of the United Kingdom have not set back the operation of solidarity with Palestine. 3 attacks were reported by the Yemeni army against the aircraft carrier Truman. With cruise missiles, as confirmed by the spokesman of the Yemeni Armed Forces, Brigadier General Yahya Sadi, the operations against the nuclear aircraft were carried out. Hours earlier, Washington's forces, backed by the United Kingdom, attacked civilian areas in Hajjah, Hodeidah, and Sada, leaving several dead and wounded. The Pentagon troops besieged by the Houthi forces were forced to deploy a second aircraft carrier from the Asia-Pacific region. And Iran rejects U.S. threats and reaffirms that there are neither military options nor military solutions to the nuclear issue, and for the moment they are sticking to the path of diplomacy. The statement is made by Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi about the intimidating language of President Donald Trump and his diplomats. The Persian foreign policy chief reiterated that diplomatic channels have worked for his country in the past and reiterated that they can still work. The reply to the letter sent by the White House was sent back to Tehran in intimidating terms that Israel has rejected, recalling that Washington's interventions in the area have been costly and useless. In other news, in Russia, Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov hosted Wednesday his Vietnamese counterpart Bui Thanh Son as both nations continue to strengthen bilateral relations. The meeting comes as Moscow and Hanoi marked 75 years of diplomatic relations, as well as the 80th anniversary of victory in the Second World War and of Vietnam's independence declared on September 2, 1945. The Russian foreign minister praised the development of friendly and truly fraternal relations and the practical expression of both people's solidarity in their fight for their independence and interests. Lavrov added that past experiences provided the basis for an intensive and substantive political dialogue at all levels and promoted trade and economic ties, defense and security cooperation, cultural exchanges that are in great demand in society, and overall a closer interaction on the international stage.
The comprehensive strategic partnership between Russia and Vietnam has been developing very actively at various levels lately. In particular, the state visit of President Putin to Vietnam, which took place in July 2024, gave a new impetus to the further development of strengthening relations between our countries. Relations between Russia and Vietnam have recently achieved very great results.
Мы уделяем приоритетное внимание ситуации в Азиатско-Тихоокеанском регионе.
We pay priority attention to the situation in the Asia-Pacific region. We advocate the formation of an architecture of equal, indivisible security in the region, an architecture adequate to modern realities, based on generally recognized norms of international law. And in this regard, of course, we are concerned about the counterproductive attempts to form a network of narrow format, essentially bloc alliances. And in this sense, we welcome Vietnam's readiness to fully promote the development of interaction and dialogue partnership between Russia and ASEAN.
Готовность Вьетнама всемерно способствовать развитию взаимодействия, диалогового партнерства между.
Like this, we are from the end of this news briefing. You can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. You can also join us on our social media to stay up to date on everything happening around the world. For teleSUR English, I'm Luis Alberto Matos. Thanks for watching.